Hi, and welcome to 50 and Starting a Business. Today we're going to discuss what an LLC is. So I started making videos about LLC and then I realized okay, well, some people might not know exactly what a LLC is. As I mentioned in a previous video, 99.7% of businesses are sole proprietorships in the United States. Something to keep in mind is that a sole proprietorship, you don't actually have to do anything. You don't have to register with the state or file with the state. You might need business licenses to run your business, but you don't necessarily need to register your business with the state as an entity doing business. However, if someone gets hurt in your business, whether it's a bodega or a shop you have, if it's a lawn mowing service and some dog runs and an owner is chasing it and trips over some equipment you left on the ground, if you get sued and you're a sole proprietorship, the person suing you can actually go after your personal assets. They can go after your house and your car. Thankfully, they cannot go after your retirement assets, but they can go after your bank accounts. If you set up a limited liability company, those assets are protected. So even your bank account is protected. Now, some people can some lawyers in some states can kind of pierce the veil and go after some assets, but generally speaking, your assets are protected in a limited liability company. So as a sole proprietor, I urge you to set up a limited liability company. So you might be asking yourself, okay, so she's making a push for us to set up an LLC. Is it really right for us? So what I would say is if you're setting up a YouTube channel, it's possible that your YouTube channel does not need to be set up as an LLC. There's not a whole lot of risk that the people, my subscribers or my clients, they're not paying me for the channel, to watch the channel, but that they're going to hurt themselves watching it legally, and I'm going to get sued. So the probability of me getting sued with a YouTube channel is relatively no. If I set up a construction company as a sole proprietor and I hire people to work in the building of my clients' homes or apartment buildings or what have you, there's a very high probability that somebody's going to get hurt and I potentially would get sued. So that's a company that I would definitely set up an LLC for. You can weigh it yourselves. I mean, I have a wealth management company. I honestly believe that probably me getting sued for that is relatively low, because I talk to my clients all the time and make sure that they're fully aware of what's going on. However, if that does happen, the risk reward, small percentage of risk, really high payment or liability that I could face, it made sense for me to put that under an LLC. So you need to discuss with yourself, with your spouse, whoever you're opening up business, a sole proprietorship, whether you want the LLC or not. Corporation is the best way to really get protected, but it's a lot more cost, it's a lot more complex. The federal government actually comes out and says that certain institutions, like certain types of financial institutions, are not allowed to form LLCs. So you do need to look and see, partially, not so much federal, but state. So in California, I was surprised by this. I actually have a client in California who works in healthcare, and I was going to ask her why she set up a corporation and not an LLC, because again, corporation is much more complex. But in California, architects, accountants, and healthcare providers are not allowed to form LLCs, which I found surprising. Especially architects. So they generally set up corporations if you're running that in California. So here are the pros for setting up an LLC. Your personal, one and big one for me is your personal assets are protected. So nobody can come after your home and your personal assets. Tax preparation is actually relatively easy because the federal government views an LLC, a single LLC, is actually, they kind of disregard it as an entity. A corporation is its own person, but an LLC, they disregard it. The money comes into the LLC and it goes straight down. Actually, it can go multi-member, it goes right down to the people, or the members, and that's when it gets taxed. So it doesn't get taxed at the entity level. So a corporation gets taxed at the entity level, and then you pay each person, and each person gets taxed again. So double taxation, that's what they're talking about, double taxation. But an LLC it comes into the LLC, it rains down to the members, and then it gets, or the employees, and then it gets taxed at that level. Another benefit is that it adds a little bit of formality and credibility to your business. So if my wealth management business wasn't an LLC, it was just me, and I just, it wouldn't really be smart to do that. But it's nice now that I have a company name, an LLC. It adds a lot of credibility to what I'm doing. Someday this channel might be an LLC. Not sure why, but maybe I'll sell shirts 50 and starting a business, but by then I'll probably be 60. So who knows? And the cons of setting up an LLC is that, an LLC versus other entities really is that you cannot sell stock. So you can't issue shares, you can't sell stocks. If you change the membership of the LLC, you generally have to file a new LLC. So if I was multi-member and it was myself and someone else, and that changed, we would have to file the LLC again. The other is that if you do not meet their yearly filing requirements and pay the fee, your LLC can be dissolved. So a sole proprietorship can never be dissolved, really, because it's you. But an LLC can. When you are an LLC, you're actually responsible for securing Social Security and Medicare payments. So that happens as well as if you're sole proprietorship. You need to make sure that you're paying into Social Security and Medicare. So LLCs are really great for protecting your personal assets. To me, that's the number one reason why somebody would do that versus a sole proprietorship. Again, their filing fees aren't really that high. The 6 steps to setting it up really aren't that great. And the others, if you want flexibility with the management. I think down the road, as my wealth management grows, I will definitely have a multi-member LLC. It just would help me to have other people join in the membership. Hopefully it's my kids. I demand a lot of my kids. But hopefully that would be the case for them to do that. So you really need to understand the requirements of an LLC, because you don't want to mess up on the requirements and then your LLC gets dissolved. So every LLC should have an operating agreement. And again, we discussed this before. If it's just you and your state doesn't require one, you don't need one. But if it's yourself and another member, you really need to have an operating agreement. It's going to talk about the governance of the LLC, the ownership parameters, and the rules around membership changing. So it's possible that, there's 5 people that start off the business and 2 want to quit and form their own, and then someone else is going to join in. So how do you manage that? Are you buying somebody out? Does someone have to pay to get into the membership? So all of that needs to get discussed. LLCs are required to file annual or biannual reports with the Secretary of State. And again, that's going to be dictated by the state in which you live. Failure to do so, they can just dissolve your LLC, which could create a liability issue. If you have a 2-month gap or a 3-month gap when your LLC doesn't exist, most likely you can continue doing business in your state. That's not the problem. But if you get sued in that gap during that period of time, the liability is going to reach right back to your personal assets. 3 fees you're potentially going to face are your filing fees, incorporating your business, the initial fee, then your annual fee, and then you might have some applicable licenses fees. Like if you're a hairdresser, or I learned the other day trucking has extra fees, you're going to have to pay those. Those fees are actually, you have to pay whether you use LegalZoom or some other company or a lawyer to set up your business. So they charge additional fees on top of those. So keep in mind, again, it's something you easily can do. It takes a little bit of time. Use your Google Calendar or your Mac calendar, the calendar on your phone, to set up a reminder I have to pay the fees. Plus, the state governments are going to be sending you paperwork, but you have to pay for this. So you also have to pay for that. I had to pay $100 for a poster to put on my wall that apparently I'm supposed to have in my office for the laws regarding hiring other people, what other employees' rights are, which is funny since it's just me and there are no employees. But I did have to pay $100 to get this poster that I could paste on my wall. And I use a lawyer. So there are fees that you're going to have to pay up front. None of them are I think at most it was like $200. So just look onto the, well, every state's different. California has a whole ton of fees. So look at the state to see what the fees you're going to have to pay. And then you will have to follow state rules for naming your LLC. So most states say you can have your company name, and at the end of it, it either has to say limited liability company or LLC or L.C. So you're going to have to follow your state rules on that. And as I addressed earlier, that I'm going to address again, is that there are 7 types of LLCs. So you have the single member LLC and the multi-member. Those are the 2 most common, and that's what I have addressed earlier. You have a member managed LLC, and you have a manager managed LLC. 2 slightly different, look into the specifics of those, but one is just a member. Like if I had 3 other members and I'm the member and I decided to manage the LLC, then I could have an outside manager decide to manage the 3 of us in our LLC. There's a series LLC, which is like an umbrella. So it's an umbrella LLC, and then it has little LLCs underneath it, right? That's kind of how I see the management of my Coastal Wealth Management being built, is as like an umbrella, and then different entities underneath. Number 6 is a restricted LLC, and usually this LLC is going to exist for 10 years. It's restricted to a 10-year period, and then it's going to go away. And the last one is an L3C LLC. And really what it is, it's a nonprofit that for whatever reason is coming underneath an LLC. So it's a philanthropic organization that ultimately is a nonprofit, but it is coming underneath an LLC umbrella. So those are the requirements and the different types of LLCs. Overall, I hope that was helpful. That was a lot of information. I was going to break it down into 2 videos, but learning that YouTube likes like 10 to 11 minute videos, I decided to put all this information in one. Please leave comments. Please subscribe. Let me know if you like this. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to either answer them or do the research and then answer your questions back. If your business is starting an LLC, starting a YouTube channel, leave me your channel name. I'd love to check it out. Or your business. If you have a website in your business, I'd love to check it out. I'd love to be supportive of other people starting their own businesses. Thanks again for watching. Have a nice day.